Joy nearly got lost on the root-knotted red dirt path of Highway 99, losing sight of the gaps between the live oaks and Spanish moss that fanned across her hood and windows like fingertips. Driving back to her family's cabin 20 years later reminded her that the woods had rarely been restful for her. Once, Dad had made her play outside instead of sitting on the couch with her Virginia Hamilton books, and she'd stepped in an anthill up to her shin. She howled so loudly from the vicious stinging that Dad and Mom heard her all the way from the lake, and when they reached her, they expected to find her half dead. She'd never forgotten that wild, frightened look in their eyes. No, Joy did not like the woods. If she'd started her trip closer to dark, she would have had to turn around and wait out the night at the overpriced Hampton Inn off I-10. Like her father, she didn't want to sleep alone at her parents' main house in the ashes of her childhood 10 miles back toward civilization. But her father's old Bronco finally appeared in the glare of orange dusklight fighting through the treetops, parked in front of the cabin. And the cabin looked so small, much smaller than she remembered. The trees and wildly growing ferns dwarfed it, with no obvious path to the door from the red-brown dirt driveway. She'd imagined that she and her brother might fix the cabin up as a rental one day. But in real life, it was puny and weather-beaten and sad, more relic than residence. Their great-grandfather built this cabin in the 1920s to hide from lynch mobs roused by their envy that a Negro businessman could afford a shiny new Ford Model T. Every inch of the cabin was sagging 100 years later, weary of standing. The slanted roof had collected a thick blanket of dead leaves at the heart of the L shape that separated the cabin's main room from its single bedroom. The bathroom her parents had added in the rear in the 90s wasn't in great shape, Jessie had warned. But it was better than the outhouse she still saw a few yards beyond the cabin, its wood blackened with age. How had Dad been living there alone for 2 months? Maybe longer if her brother's theory was true, that he'd moved into the cabin soon after Mom's funeral a year ago. Almost to the day. How? She said aloud. Gaps between the wall's wooden slats gaped like missing teeth, so the cabin probably had no insulation just when the weather was getting cold. Joy was wearing a jacket and it wasn't dark yet. North Florida wasn't New York, where she lived now, but it wasn't South Florida either. The temperature was dipping to the 40s at night. Jessie had warned her to bring extra blankets to supplement the coal stove, which was still the main heating source. The cabin looked abandoned,